Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everybody doing today? Oh, I'm so very, very tired. Thank you, Dwarf, for getting first. Lullaby for getting second. You know, for getting third. Good to see you. And hi, Moxie and Echo. I thought how funny it would be if I just started these streams by screaming because I see people coming in here in the morning. And then, I wouldn't do it though, I would never want to be mean. 1 second. Eeps were good, but not long enough. Unfortunately, I decided to, stay up late working on a little short. It's 1 minute and 1 second long. Took me way too long to make. But it is what it is. You may notice me mute every once in a while. It doesn't feel like it was a lot of work. It feels like it was just a lot of, time spent going through clips I had. I think I need to start doing that more often. It's just going through the clips I have and editing them down. And that way, when I do finally make a video out of them, they're just quick to work with. Because it's one of those things of it's easier to put in a little bit of work all the time than a lot of work all at once. Morning, chum. Good to see you this morning. How have you been? I personally am doing well. 1 second again. Good morning, Chelsea. How are you doing? What kind of food did you make, Jump? What kind of food did you make? Alright, you ready? Boop. And we're gonna go and capture the game. Let's make sure it's actually being captured. There it is. And now, let's make sure the game's not too loud. There we go. Some chicken and adobo fried rice. That sounds very nice. Sounds very lovely. I remember we have 15 minutes before we have to go down. That's going to be at 4:10 for me. chicken adobo and fried rice, not chicken adobo fried rice. I like chicken. Chicken's very good. Oh, I'm too big right now. Maybe I'll just stay big today. Oh, I'm slowly eating a little bit of this cheesy bread. Man, those bots have been getting annoying. Bread. And there's a place called Papa Murphy's Pizza that I found out about recently. And I think I might go there today as well because they're doing a thing where if you buy one pizza, you get one free. And so that's going to be like $8 a large pizza. But the problem with this place is that, oh, good morning, pretty buddy. What's a good buddy like you doing here? The problem with Papa Murphy's is they don't cook the pizza. They only give you the pizza and go cook it yourself. But the pizza quality ain't bad for what it is. Well, I mean, I'm gonna freeze one of the pizzas, you know. You stumbling like a moron. No, you're not a moron. You've never been a moron. A little goofy, maybe. Most definitely not a moron. You be dumb sometime. That's fair. Me too. Me too. Hey, what is that man doing? These ones are so annoying. You know what I'm talking about when it's just so much of the same biome. You don't want an adult today. I'm such a good doggy. Oh, Shay, you're such a good little buddy. Such a good buddy. Good morning, Lumi. How you doing today? How have you been? I got rid of the style of redeem, but I know that's why you used to always come by. I'm wanting to go back to sleep so badly. Or just listen to corn. But I feel like corn might not be everybody's vibe this early in the morning. I realize how much differently I live than how I make my streams. To wake up, I listen to heavy metal. And then I get up, I get on stream, and I immediately go, hey guys, let's have a slow, calm day an easy start to your morning. Hello, Shiny. How you doing? I mean, if I were to have my day start the way that I started, if I know words are too hard. I give up. I have so many to say things. No, metal is one of the many genres of music I listen to. When I go to work, I listen to a lot of trap and rap. When I sit around, I listen to classical. When I sing, I listen to everything from show tunes to alternative to emo. Depends on the mood, I'll listen to punk. Classic, like 1920s type music. So listen to a lot of things. You're winding down, well, I'm glad to hear. But metal is what I listen to when I first wake up. New metal, NU metal. Korn, System of a Down, Slipknot, that kind of thing. Music is great. We should enjoy all of it, not just a few pieces. Morning links. And polyamorous. That's so goofy. Anything with good bass. Whether it's bass guitar or bass beats or bass drum. Morning morale. Good morning, links. Punk, emo, show tunes, ska. I love ska. Lounge music, experimental. I love experimental noise. Industrial is definitely one of my high-end favorites. I'm moody. I'm a little eepy, really, but that's okay. Very eepy. Very eepy. You're gonna DM me something. Chat, if I don't come back, Shay's killed me. I'll check it out after stream, though. Polyamorous. That still gets me. You just woke up. I think it's funny that you wake up at this time. 'Cause it's so late in the afternoon for you. Is what it is, though. Is what it is. Oh, makes sense. Well, good on you for not having class. Let me yoink some of these real quick. Polyamorous. Still gets me. I've not heard either of those, but they sound interesting. I mean, I like all kinds of music, so it might be up my alley. Oh, come on, come on, come on. There it is. Alright, we have 4 minutes left. Oh, I like Luffy. Okay. Got you. Okay, let's see. What we're hoping for is a little bit of dripstone. I'm buying that. Hmm. Come on, get some dripstone for me. You know you want to give me dripstone, come on. No trip is present. Yeah, but I'll definitely have to check them out. They sound interesting. This looks like a fun place as any to start our journey. What y'all think? May have a little bit more time, so let me go grab my thing. What are you doing here? Cut down a tree? We have 1 minute left. He looks like he's having some problems. Hmm. Alright, down we go. Apparently, we immediately start over. Okay. Well, that was fast. Anyone have a name for the new world? What do we call him? Bunny. I like Bunny. Bunny. Oh yeah, no, I immediately died. I stepped 1 foot into the dark, and apparently there's a skeleton waiting for me. Alright, well. We have 15 minutes again. That's gonna be 4:25. Oh, would you look at that? We have lush caves around. That might be doable. We have a lot of lush. This is a massive lush cave. Look at all this. No, you have to go soon. Good morning, Angel. Yes, I only live in caves. Sorry, I forgot to mute that. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let me mute that real quick. Congratulations on winning, Angel. And that means you get a free gifted sub here. How are you doing this morning? And what were you up to? We're gonna do a little... Really? Well, congrats. I've never done a subathon before. I hope it went well. What did you say? 14 hours? That's so much time. You have 18 hours left. Oh no. Yeah, you go get some sleep. You can either hang out here, or if you need to, feel free to just go to bed and go get some sleep. Take care of yourself, okay? And I'll make sure to take care of your community. I appreciate it. Bed is calling. Enjoy my beans. I will definitely enjoy your beans. This dude is eating beans. Good morning, Desi. How are you doing today? Cute little emotes. Well, this one's going to be interesting. There's such massive lush cave. We may just have to survive on what I can find in a lush cave. Been up all night. Oh no. Why did you do that? Something keep you up all night. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm doing all right. I'm sorry to hear you have insomnia. No, sorry. There's no sunlight allowed. Unless you get really, really lucky. But I'll get grow lights for you. You know, I'll get you some fake light. You're just gonna have to be okay. You know, suffering. This one's gonna be interesting though. Because we have no dirt. All I have is a bunch of logs so far. No way of getting more wood. I'm hoping I find the glow berries, 'cause at least I can eat those. They can't eat cactus. Oh, that's something over there. But I think is that just a well? That might only be a well. Wow, why is this lush cave so massive? At least it's gonna be pretty. Mm-hmm. I think the same, dwarf. Oh, was that your tentacle fanfic? It was interesting. It was very interesting. Mm-hmm. Grab this. And this. And down we go. I don't see much point of staying above surface this time around. It's not like we're gonna find much more. You got new watch straps. Nice. Very nice. There was. No, I made the wrong thing. Well. Oh, what was your dream about? Tell me about it. Mm-hmm. You blew up all your books. Why would you blow them up? That's such a silly thing to do. I hope I can. I hope I can help you sleep. That is my goal. I like that that was reasonable. Thank you for the hydrate. Oh, Yoro, sorry I missed this. Thank you for the sniff on redeem. One day we'll make it to the bottom. Good morning, hello there. And thank you for the redeem. I've yet to rename the other voice yet, but we'll be doing this one for a little while. Alright, where am I going here? I cannot believe there's so much of this here. maybe we should put this down here. And we'll make a little thing. I would like some light personally. There we are. Very weird dream. I suppose a weird dream is better than a bad dream, is it not? I'm not personally a fan of nightmares, so they do happen. They do happen quite often. So I'll take this back. There we go. And back down we go. Now, an emotional roller coaster. Good morning, Shibbits. How do you do today? Everything's going well. And there it is. We have found the cave. Well, we have found part of the cave. The wonder is if there is more. I'd hope there'd be more. There has to be more of this cave, right? This could not possibly be all there is. I cannot say this counts much as a lush cave if this is all there is. It will be a bit disappointing if this is all the cave there is. It means that I chose the wrong place to go down. It tends to dip into deep slate. Okay. Well, in that case, I will allow it to keep going a little bit further. Perhaps I will do this. I hope your cramps get better soon. To one of these here. Can I eat some moss? I cannot eat some moss. That is too bad. I wish I could eat some moss. What if I put you in a furnace? Could I cook some moss, perchance? I will cook you. Let me cook you. Why will you not let me cook you? You should allow it to be cooked. There we go, going back to normal. Moss. Nada. You're old and gamey. case, I guess we're going to try to go further down and hope beyond hope. And there's something else out there. And down we go. Find me something, I believe in you. Oh, good morning, Amethyst. How are you doing today? Maybe we'll find something. Oh, here we go. Not much of something, but it is something. Oh, this would be so great if we had seeds, or literally anything to grow anything with. But we do not. Oh, well, at least we found some iron. Suppose that is a start, isn't it? And we found lava. Does everybody stay up late on Sundays? That's a little better. We have at least some food. I feel like Sundays are my worst days for sleep. Because I get up so late. Right, give me the berries. My one food source. Where'd the berries go? Interesting. Oh, that's no good. I hope you're able to start getting better sleep. What is it that causes you anxiety? If you don't mind me asking. Also, if you're trying to sleep, you can feel free to ignore me. You're allowed to not have conversation with me if that is what you'd like. I will allow it. Catastrophizing everything. Oh. Remember, things can only be an issue until they're done. Then everything's better. I know it's easier said than done. You know, this is doable. Kinda got a lush cave. It's gonna be hard making, trees. But, we already have 3 or 4 sources of lava. We've had so much iron already. This is potentially doable. I'm gonna go ahead and make a shield so we don't immediately die here. I'm actually a little excited about this one. Here's coal. No, if we can find string, you're right. We're living that Gollum life. Imagine us being Gollum. Alright, so you want to save at least 2 sticks. Let's do this real quick. Wow. My precious. Mm. How are you doing, Arya? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Alright, let me make sure I can actually get this going before we get attacked. Plop that in there, throw in the iron. And we have plenty of water. Plenty of food for the picking. And now we have a shield. Easy peasy. You can always play in peaceful mode too if you just want to build, but I understand how it goes. It can be so frustrating. Remember, if you get a cat, the cat will keep away the creepers. You can get a cat by crouching near a cat with fish, and then feeding the cat the fish. Mm-hmm. Always glad to help out any way I can. Oh, really? You have to show me, Moreau. I'd love to see it. Yeah, a trench also works, and a fence. Iron. Mm. Well, as you build it, I'd love to see it. Let's start making cactus. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's why when you find a village, what you often want to do is you just brick up the village, clock people in their homes. They don't die. That's what I do. Which I always think is funny. Going into a place and just telling them all, hey, you're not allowed to leave your home anymore. Because I need you to survive. Don't forget, you can heal the villagers and bring them back from zombification. Yeah. If you use, I think it's like a healing potion or something on them, it unzombifies them. And if you heal them, they lower their prices. Which is funny to me. Hi, Pink. Thank you for the stretch, for the hydrate. I appreciate it. Mm. You're the one who redeems that. You know how I yawn. Is that a water cavey space? Oh, give me a second while I go. Just woke up. You don't have to redeem the stretch if it bothers you. I am always missing the hydrate. I don't hydrate enough. Fish. So cool. Very cool. It's a magma block. I want that. Gimp. On a Dewey. How are you doing, Pink? How's your day been going? I do think it's funny. They can't get me here. Come get me, drowned boy. Do you have a dream about a medical situation? That's kind of goofy. Hope your dream was alright. That sounds extremely horrible. I hope you're doing okay. Hmm. Well, you're awake now, and I'm glad you're awake. Now you don't have to deal with that anymore. Mm-hmm. Wow. I wish my dreams were like that one, Gibbets. Sounds a lot nicer than some of the ones I've known in the past. Okay, we're gonna start with making. Oh yeah, well I feel like most people won't actually have a situation like that. We're gonna do it all. 1, 2. No, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start from the side, okay? So it's gonna be 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Now we're gonna form the cast for the rest of it. Boop, boop. Boop. 1. Mm. The dreams play out like movies. That sounds fun. There you go. Y'all just watching too much movies. That's kind of funny. 1, 2. Hmm. What an interesting thing to relate on. You, how Little Red doing? That sounds like a very interesting way to ask me about my my Little Red. How you doing, Dar? A murder plot? Murder plot's crazy. Ooh. Is Da the Shaco. Darby Shark it. How was work, Dar? Mm. No, sounds like you probably had a busy day, didn't you? Yeah. Sorry that happens. Hmm. More berry. Hey, look, we got a little axolotl. How you doing, little axolotl, bro? Did you just woke up? Hmm. Well, I'm very glad you didn't get murdered in your dream. That would have been awful. Oh, more iron. Thank you for the alert. Being noise maxing. What's going on here? Well, that's not what I meant to do. Thank you for the alert, as always. I hear zombie. Where's zombie? Mm-hmm. It's annoying me. I can't find zombie. Zombie's hidden. Tis what it is. What it is. Mm. Picking up some iron. We're having the berries. Yummy, yummy berries. I have a bad feeling I'm gonna get lost. At least we're getting enough iron. Nice. Oh, why'd you have to move? Because you got lost. I've done that a few times. I figured. You do what you do. You do what you gotta do. So much iron. Did this loop back around? I think we looped back around. Very nice. I keep telling you all, you don't need to apologize for being late. Oh, don't forget you can make a map. Good morning, Anya. How are you doing today? Yes, you can make a map. It doesn't really help you underground much, but it can be useful. And you can make it grow. I will show you. Let's see if I can grow something in rooted dirt. So, you can use this sugarcane to make paper. Then you make a compass. Then you make more paper. I think it's that much. And then you do this, and this. Compass. And you have an empty map. When you turn on the map, it shows you everything that's around you. And if you take that map, 2, 3, and then take the map, toss around, put it there, then you can make the map bigger. See now, it'll expand. I'll hydrate, thank you. Oh, and also, thank you so much for their deems. Alright. And you can keep making it bigger and bigger and bigger. Oh, enjoy your food. Yes, I'll check. Safe? That make me worry. For some reason I wouldn't be safe. Am I being hunted? Is this how I find out I'm being hunted? Good morning, Vanya. No, you went to bed late. You're fine. I think everybody went to sleep late last night. Spear and hunting rifle. I did not do my schedule. No, I know I need to do a schedule. I'll do a schedule later. October's gonna make things different. Because, we're doing our horror games and... just imagining... I'm still imagining you just holding both both a spear. Ooh, 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 ooh. Become monkey. Sorry. How you maintain streaks? Just keep doing it. Don't stop. How do you maintain anything? You just, you do it. That ain't easy. Don't ask me how I do it. I just did it and it was hard. I don't remember what that's from, but I love it. Morning, Scripps. Scripps is writing me scripts. I'm excited for them. I'm excited to record them. Alright, here we go. these normal spiders? Anyways, we can actually make a spider grinder with this. Wait a second. Is this a... Oh, not another one. Excuse me, I had my shield up. My shield didn't work. That's disappointing. That happens. I guess the new world's gonna be called Jank-Ass Shield. No, it was full. I haven't even used it once. Maybe it's because I was holding a torch and it was trying to place a torch somewhere. That's the only thing I could think of. Jank-Ass Shield. Huh. I should have called the world Shield. No. Very disappointing. Thank you. I'm a poet, and I know it. No, are you? Oh, god damn it, we doing this one already? I dozed off and woke up with a dream of you dancing, and your free voice blended perfect with my dream when I was confused. There ain't no reason to be. There ain't a single goddamn... Why am I cursing? There ain't a single reason to let anything get to you. It's a game. Apparently somebody got cut off outside of my place. And things happen. Things happen for any amount of reasons. But now I gotta look at this beautiful cave system. And maybe if we're lucky, we'll find some dripstone in here. Nah. Ain't gotta go to that extent, Vanya. Ain't no one requesting that right now. Right now, maybe someone will later. Tee. Goofy. God, look how big this cave is. There has got to be some dripstone. This is a gorgeous place. If only I stayed above the land a little bit, you know? Mayhaps I might find something worthwhile here. Doubtful, though. Doubtful at this point. Morning, Bella. I'm doing lovely. How you doing? Oh, shoot. When are we getting here? 5, probably? Maybe. I'll say we have like 10 more minutes, alright? My wife asked me how I do it. I just did it. It was hard. Boom, boom, boom. I've got that stuck in my head. It ain't going anywhere. So it's currently happening. It do be. It do be. Do be, do be, do be. Why are you sad? What's going on? I want to talk about your sadness and your feelings. With that moment when you be in your feelings. Oh, that is sad, but I'm sure you'll meet again. Very cool, though. Maybe she'll see my sister there. Morning, Ulrika. How you doing, sweetie? Ain't no way. What you doing? Why are you trying to fight me? Get out of here. Thank you for the licks on you. Still drowsy. Go get some more sleep. Get yourself back in bed. You ain't gotta be here. That is fun, Bella. Mm-hmm. No, moving in with a girlfriend. Hey. Alright, so here's the goal right now. My goal is to find iron as quickly as I can so I can grab some lava. Because we can grab lava. Everything else is going to be great. Yes, does it? You'll find someone. There's somebody out there for everyone. Don't you worry about it. Want to stop by? Of course. I love seeing you, Erica. I really do love seeing you. That's the way to look at it. Single and hot. There needs to be a hair flip emoji. One day I'll have an emotion or an emoji for everything. I said I love seeing you. What, am I not allowed to like seeing you around here? We can fix that. I'm not gonna say, nah, I don't like seeing you anymore. Damn. You get terrible people. Mm-mm. Oh, I feel you. No. Good. Let's see if we can find some more iron. A lot of copper. Not much on the iron front. Actually, I should probably get some more wood. A lot of things I should be doing. I suppose what I really should be doing is trying to survive, because I got some good stuff right now. To be fair, I did the same thing when I was that age. I hit on everybody. Y'all have very similar circumstances. There we go. That should do for that. Throw that one down. Bloop. Pop that open. Grab myself some sticks. Morning, Moxie. There you are. Came by early. Did you go back to sleep? You blush hard and stutter. Oh, girl, it is so easy to hit on people. Kind of do is call them pretty. You don't hit on your friend. Understandable. Ain't no risk there. Oof. Mm-hmm. Men make easy targets. I'm about to say mostly. Better be mostly. I guess I can get out of the southern voice now. Alright, Ulrika, you have a good one, okay, sweetie? You be good. You better be good. I expect a report if you've not been. Hey, I was comp sci. You're avoiding social interaction. I get that, Moxie. I would too if I could. I was sounding like a hot cowboy. But now it's gone again, and we're back to the normal voice. Making my way downtown, walking fast, seasons pass, and I'm homebound. No, and I miss you. And I need you. And now I wonder. If I could fall into the sky, do you think time would pass me by? Tonight. One fine morning I was awakened. Bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Hey Moxie, don't do that. Do not do that. Do you have a companion? I mean, not right now. I think I'll try to get a dog later if I can. You're a weird and amazing type. Does sound weird and amazing. Oh. No. I do not. I am about a year single. Any particular dog breed I like? Ooh, yes, I like all the dogs. Every dog is the best dog. All the dogs are good. I like wolfhounds, and I like German Shepherd, I like pugs and bulldogs and any goofy looking one. Good morning, Carmia. Hello. Hello. Mm-hmm. No, it's so easy to flirt with men. Call them pretty. Call them anything you want a girl. Especially with a cute voice. Alright, well, now I gotta go down. You have golden. The hell kind of music is that? 1 second. There you go. Sorry about that. Alright, this is gonna be fudge. I couldn't do it because I got chased by a skeleton. It's always the skeletons. It's always the stupid skeletons. If I could just get a stupid... if I could just get a bow. No. Like 3 times. 3 times already. I've had the most amazing starts cutting me up, but it's always the stupid skeletons where I just like, oh no, no. I'm calm, I'm relaxed. I think it's just frustrating when, like, because there's nothing you can do against them because their aim is instant and perfect. And I went against a creeper and I held up my shield and I was holding my shield up and I died. I think because I was holding also a torch and I think it tried to place the torch. That's fair. It is good to have friendship with somebody before you date them. I used to exclusively just date people. I did not do a lot of friends, I just did relationships. No, skeletons do not have eyes. They have eye sockets. God, didn't I say I was going to do a dating advice stream one day? Mm. I just don't do well with friendships first. Which is basically cheating, honestly. Who moves to Wales? That's right, Jay, you already here. Wales and cheating is the same. Wales is pretty. I like how goofy their roads are, where you have the hedges and there's just like one lane. And like you're driving through the hedges, and then you see a car coming, so you have to stop and reverse and then park on a little outcropping. That's right, Moxie. Well, you have 2 problems there. As you should. Oh, he was a. Okay, that's a weird way of putting it. Oh, what's that? What is that? Nothing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, man, I just want to go back to sleep. I don't have time to go back to. How long have I been in this world? Oh no. I wasn't keeping track of how long I've been in this. Oh wait, no, it's not nighttime yet. Okay, yeah, 15 minutes is usually right after night. So once it hits night, we'll just go down. Unpopular opinion because it's not true. Bella, you just haven't had good coffee. Bella, cara mia, Moxie, Aria. You're very, very wrong, but it's okay to be wrong. You can still be wrong and pretty. Mm-hmm. Yeah, doesn't mean that you've drank it. One truth and a lie. Chicken, 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 chicken. Give egg, give egg, give egg, give egg, give egg, give egg, give egg. Give me egg, give me egg, give egg, I want egg. Give, 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 give me egg. No, no, no. I have an idea, I have an idea, I have an idea. You just like coffee because the tannins, that means that you have a more sensitive tongue to tannins. Others don't have the same sensitivity. It's not okay. I refuse to allow other people to have other tastes besides mine. Do you know how you can like celery? And I found this out with vegetables. Do you want to know how I started eating celery? I got heavily drunk, and I was intentionally focusing on trying to enjoy all the positive tastes of a vegetable tray, and I ate the entire vegetable tray until some of the stuff started tasting good. It worked. The thing is, you can enjoy a lot of things, but our brain has these walls put up, either to protect us or, just exist. And, if you can bypass those, like black licorice, for instance, technically should taste fine, but a lot of people it tastes like poison. Well, I used to drink a lot. I don't anymore. Mm. And sensory issues is also a mental block. Anyways, I found my way of getting around this. I just hope, beyond hope, that I don't do something dumb here. Safe person and safe amount is very important. Come on, chicken. We're going down. Oh no. Okay, let's calm down. There we go. decided to live with the chicken. Chicken, what are you doing? Chicken, do not. Chicken. Honey Bunch. Honey Bunch. What are you? Do not be crazy. Here. Stay in boat. Can you lay egg while in boat? You don't like the taste of alcohol? That's fair. Exactly. Don't drink. You do not need to drink. People go their entire lives not drinking. There's no benefit. Well, there's a few benefits of drinking, but like, you do not need to drink. Yeah, there's a few benefits of drinking. Can help with cardiovascular health. Slightly. Not being drunk, though. Just having, like, sips. Alcohol in any kind of alcohol, actually. It's not specific to red wine. But yeah, in moderation. Always in moderation. So it is moderate alcohol consumption, 1 to 4 drinks per week, is associated with reduced risk of coronary artery disease, potentially by increasing good HDL cholesterol and reducing platelet clumping. But this benefit is limited to a certain age groups and does not apply. Yeah, there you go. Drunk girls are very sweet. Alright, well, this is where we're gonna live. And I'll live off this chicken. No. No dar, bad dar. Bad dar. Alright, lovelies. About time we come to an end here. Hope you all had a good time. Very chill, relaxing morning this morning. Let's see who we have. Oh, my usuals aren't around. Well, I did get the egg. I have 1 egg. Actually, see if the egg can become anything. You ready? Nothing. Alright. I'm just gonna go right into shrimps. It's all good. You all don't need to apologize for being late. I tell you this all the time. There's nothing wrong with being late. Goodbye for now, everybody. Just say hello to the shrimps for me. I'll be back later, okay? Later this afternoon. I'll make a schedule soon. Bye for now. Mwah.